$850 billion, that's the baseline. By the time you add in supplemental funding, we're looking at a $1 trillion machine. But this isn't just about throwing money at a problem. It's about maintaining the most dominant fighting force in human history. The U.S. spends more on defense than the next 9 countries combined. But what does that actually buy? Today we're going beyond the surface. From invisible jets to the guardians of GPS in outer space, we're breaking down the raw power of the U.S. military. Let's dive in. The brain power and global reach. It starts with the footprint. The U.S. doesn't just stay home. With over 750 bases in 80 countries, the U.S. can put boots on the ground anywhere on Earth in under 24 hours. The personnel is 1.3 million active duty. As of late 2025 and early 2026, the U.S. maintains a core force of approximately 1.3 to 1.34 million active duty service members across its 6 branches: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Space Forces, and Coast Guard. Or 40,000 reserves and National Guard. The essential backup personnel is to serve as the primary combat reserve for the Army and Air Force to fight and win the nation's wars, while simultaneously providing specialized capabilities and emergency response for domestic missions. 700,000 plus civilians. The engineers and analysts keeping the gears turning for the U.S. military. This is the most combat-experienced force on the planet. From the elite Navy SEALs to the screaming eagles of the 101st Airborne, the training budget alone for one U.S. soldier could fund a small town for a year. Ground power, the Iron Giants. On the ground, the U.S. Army and Marine Corps rely on the Big Stick. The M1A2 Abrams is a 70-ton beast wrapped in classified depleted uranium armor. Let's deep dive. The U.S. military has tanks, 6,500 plus, thousands in active service, thousands more in deep storage ready for a major conflict. Armored vehicles, 45,000 plus Strykers, Bradleys, and the new AMPV. The JLTV. The iconic Humvee is retiring. Its replacement, the JLTV, is a high-speed, mine-resistant fortress on wheels. But it's not just about the armor, it's about the network. Every tank is connected to satellites, drones, and infantry, creating a digital battlefield where the enemy is seen before they even know they're in a fight. Naval Supremacy, floating cities. If the Army is the stick, the Navy is the hammer. The U.S. operates 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. These aren't just ships. They are 4.5 acres of sovereign U.S. territory that can move 30 knots. The fleet owned by the U.S. military is aircraft carriers. The Navy has a statutory requirement for a minimum of 11 aircraft carriers. All 11 carriers are currently active, 10 Nimitz class and 1 Gerald R. Ford class. Aircraft carriers act as air bases for carrier-based aircraft. They are the largest vessels in the Navy fleet and all are nuclear-powered. Aircraft carriers have the ability to house 5,000 people. This is the size of a small town floating in the ocean. Aircraft carriers also have up to 90 aircraft on the ship at one time. Amphibious warfare ships. The Navy operates 32 amphibious warfare ships, 8 Wasp-class and 2 America-class amphibious assault ships, 4 Harper's Ferry-class and 6 Whidbey Island-class dock landing ships, and 12 San Antonio-class amphibious transport dock ships. Amphibious assault ships are warships that embark, transport, and land Marines, supplies, and equipment in a supporting role during amphibious warfare missions. With a landing platform, amphibious transport docks also have the capability to serve as secondary aviation support for an expeditionary group. Cruisers. Cruisers are large surface combat vessels that conduct anti-air, anti-missile warfare, surface warfare, anti-submarine warfare, and strike operations independently or as members of a larger task force. Modern guided missile cruisers were developed out of a need to counter the anti-ship missile threat facing the United States Navy. Destroyers. The U.S. Navy currently has 75 destroyers, 73 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers and 2 Zumwalt-class stealth destroyers, with a third, the USS Lyndon B. Johnson, expected to enter service sometime. Destroyers are multi-mission medium-surface ships capable of sustained performance in anti-air, anti-submarine, anti-ship, and offensive strike operations. Like cruisers, guided missile destroyers are primarily focused on surface strikes using Tomahawk missiles and fleet defense through Aegis and the Standard Missile. Submarines. The Navy operates 69 submarines, 29 Los Angeles-class attack submarines, with 2 more in reserve, 18 Ohio-class submarines with 14 configured as ballistic missile submarines and 4 configured as guided missile submarines, 3 Seawolf-class attack submarines and 19 Virginia-class attack submarines. All current and planned U.S. Navy submarines are nuclear-powered, as nuclear propulsion allows for a combination of stealth and long duration, high speed, sustained underwater movement. The Virginia class can stay submerged for months, carrying enough firepower to level entire cities. A single U.S. carrier strike group packs more air power than 70% of the world's national air forces. And the U.S. has 11 of them. Air dominance and the new frontier. In the air, the U.S. plays a different game, stealth. The F-22 Raptor remains the undisputed king of air-to-air combat, while the F-35 Lightning II acts as a quarterback in the sky, feeding data to everything around it. The U.S. Air Force has a total force of approximately 5,500 aircraft. Of these, an estimated 431 are in active service. The various aircraft of the Air Force include: first, there are fighter jets, which are military aircraft designed primarily for air-to-air combat. In military conflict, the role of fighter jets is to establish air superiority over the battlefield. Dominating the airspace over the battlefield allows bombers and attack aircraft to conduct tactical and strategic bombing raids against enemy targets and helps deter them from doing the same. Then there are attack aircraft. This class of aircraft is designed mostly for close air support and naval air-to-surface missions, overlapping the tactical bomber mission. Designs dedicated to non-naval roles are often known as ground attack aircraft. Bomber. There are 2 major classifications of bomber: strategic and tactical. Strategic bombing is done by heavy bombers primarily designed for long-range bombing missions against strategic targets to diminish the enemy's ability to wage war by limiting access to resources through crippling infrastructure, reducing industrial output, or inflicting massive civilian casualties to an extent deemed to force surrender. Tactical bombing is aimed at countering enemy military activity and in supporting offensive operations, and is typically assigned to smaller aircraft operating at shorter ranges, typically near the troops on the ground or against enemy shipping. Electronic warfare. An electronic warfare aircraft is a military aircraft equipped for electronic warfare, EW, that is degrading the effectiveness of enemy radar and radio systems by using radar jamming and deception methods. In addition, there are also cargo aircraft, which are typically used to deliver troops, weapons, and other military equipment by a variety of methods to any area of military operations around the world, usually outside of the commercial flight routes in uncontrolled airspace. Finally, there are tanker aircraft, which serve to provide fuel via a tail-mounted refueling boom and can be equipped with probe and drogue refueling systems. Air-to-air refueling is extensively used in large-scale operations and also used in normal operations like fighters, bombers, and cargo aircraft. Wait, we can't forget the newest branch, the U.S. Space Force. They aren't fighting aliens, they're protecting the satellites that run your GPS, your banking, and the military's entire communication grid. If Space Force fails, the rest of the military goes blind. The nuclear triad and cyber. Finally, there's the ultimate deterrent, the nuclear triad. land-based missiles, sub-launched nukes, and long-range bombers. It's a $1.2 trillion modernization project to ensure that a bad day for the world never actually happens. Cyber warfare. Behind the scenes, the U.S. Cyber Command is fighting thousands of attacks every hour, protecting the power grid and the Pentagon's secrets from state-sponsored hackers. So is the U.S. military actually untouchable? On paper, yes. But as technology shifts toward cheap drones and AI, the Pentagon is racing to adapt. A billion-dollar ship is great, but can it stop a swarm of $10,500 drones? What do you think? Is the U.S. spending too much, or is this the price of global stability? Let's spark a debate in the comments.